Entertainment news always hides little needles beneath velvet, and this week, beyond the gates lays out a row of sharpened points strong enough to pierce the skins of morality, kinship, and the illusion of happiness. Anyone who still believes in clean lines between family and power may want to revisit the history of the very characters they adore, because what is happening now isn't an outburst so much as the inevitable result of fractures that formed long ago. From the moment Anita chose to guard the family's honor with sternness rather than gentleness, from the moment Vernon accepted quiet compromises in exchange for peace, from the moment Nicole decided that protecting the family mattered more than protecting each individual, and from the years Kat grew up feeling both chosen and left behind, the carpet of the past was woven with countless loose threads. Each link has been waiting over time for the right second to snap. And now, amid the hammering of renovations, the murmurs of winter festival preparations, and the hurried footsteps along hospital corridors, every stitch gives way at once, exposing a starker picture than anyone wanted to see.
Kat,
whose heart once believed that a father's love was an indivisible privilege, faces a new reality. The unique claim she has held so long is threatened by Eva's arrival, not because Eva wants to take anything, but because the family's time machine has already begun to whir, pulling an innocent girl into a vortex of verification, naming, and demands. Ted has long clung to the fantasy of repair. Through ritual, through gatherings, through encouraging intimate forms of address as if they were a glue that could fix the past. He believes that if shared holidays go smoothly, if a simple word can be spoken fully at the dinner table, the old holes will mend. But that faith ignores a truth. A crack does not only lie on the surface but runs deep into the memory of the one who grew up beside it. Kat hears someone call Ted Dad, and instead of feeling healed, she feels erased. The problem isn't Eva. It's that Kat understands that when the family structure expands to welcome another person, her own position will have to shift, and the buried fear, layered over with politeness, rises like an earthquake. The ultimatum she pushes toward Ted is not reckless bravado but a distorted SOS from someone haunted by the dread of being replaced. In that context, Nicole, the family's habitual break, tries to pull her daughter back from the edge with clear-headedness, reminding her that fairness here cannot be measured by one person's feelings. But since when does fairness get a hearing when a heart is frozen by the terror of being forgotten? Everything curdles when the hospital, meant for healing, becomes the stage that accidentally exposes gaps in connection. The nurse's station, usually quiet as a rite, becomes an echo chamber where private decisions turn public. Affectionate forms of address that ought to bring joy fall on ears not yet mended. Kat walks away, leaving a cold hollow between Ted, Nicole, and Shanice. And that departure isn't just an angry reflex. It's a declaration that she cannot accept a family rebuilt on still wet mortar. Within this charged field, each person clings to their own interpretation to avoid being swept off. Ted to the hope that time will soothe, Nicole to the inner discipline that kinship can bargain with reason, and Kat to the sense of dispossession she sharpens into a defensive blade. Is a family dinner possible where people actually speak their fears aloud? Or will every dinner continue as a ritual of placation through food, while porcelain plates chime so softly that everyone hears them as thunder? On Vernon's side, discreet phone calls and a meeting with Sharon on a bridge famous for its calm beauty open another vein of tension. One could believe Vernon only wants to plan a sweet surprise for Anita, that a charity lunch or a new auction lot might make winter warmer. But those who have lived long in the world of funds, line items, and benefit drives know that every touch of the memory chest leaves a mark. Barbara's name surfaces again amid plans for commemorative giving, and by the cruel logic of things, each time a departed soul is invoked, the living must face the truths they once hid for the sake of peace. Was Vernon closer to Barbara than anyone imagined? Did a string of youthful mistakes leave a thorny legacy everyone has chosen to ignore? Or is this merely a vast smoke screen stoked by people hungry for scandal to feed their whispers? Leslie's constant presence at the eye of the storm gives oxygen to every hypothesis. From the day she entered the Fairmont Crest elite with the courage of someone proud of her origins, Leslie anchored her identity to Barbara like a ship's mooring. But is that anchor tied to the right vessel, or to a rock with the wrong label? As the winter festival pivots toward mental health and Barbara's remembrance, as the charity lots cluster beneath the fluorescent glow of beautiful meaning, people begin to ask whether Leslie is chiseling open a safe of affection never meant for her. And if this week reveals that Leslie has no blood tie to Barbara or Vernon, that the identity she's clung to for ballroom respect is a misread story, what happens to someone who used that name to draw benefits from the memorial fund? Might a cold demand for restitution land on her desk just as the charity spotlights are at their brightest? Could the collapse of her image unfold on the very stage erected to honor goodness? When a person is stripped of a title before a crowd, do they bow out quietly or trigger yet another rupture that drags everyone down? Naomi and Jacob, the pair once expected to author a decorous, balanced chapter, find themselves sliding into a finer fissure than any shouting match. Disagreements about children, the weight of duty, and the feeling of betrayal not for infidelity but for a concealed health secret that arrives just in time to rot trust. Derek's recovery is good news for the world, except for those stuck at the intersection of honesty and loyalty. Jacob knew, Shanice knew, and they persuaded themselves it was Derek's secret, that respecting boundaries was the right thing. But in marriage, some secrets stop being one person's domain. Once they brush the other's breath, they belong to both. Naomi isn't angry because Derek stands. She's angry because she was treated like an outsider to the story at the heart of her inner circle. That exclusion, amplified by months of pressure about children, presses on her chest until a seemingly solid marriage needs a pause. Can a pause save anything when the foundation is warped by the most basic question? Do they want the same family at all? Or is pause a polite term for stepping through a closed door without saying goodbye? Jacob is crushed not by one blow but by a series of small gestures that build a tower of isolation. He steps into Nicole's office seeking a cure, but therapy isn't an eraser for mistakes. It's a mirror that forces a person to confront their faulty scaffolding. Long used to playing crisis fixer, Jacob believes that if he holds enough of his loved one's secrets to his chest, he's doing good. But that embrace has bent him away from the minimal honesty owed to a spouse. When Naomi cracks the door for air, Jacob realizes the pain doesn't come from the word separation, but from the fact that someone no longer feels safe to stay. In that moment, all the self-respect questions arrive at once. If he apologizes, is it because he was caught or because he's truly remorseful? If he promises to change, is it a vow to repair or a covert bid for control? And if he leaves to give her space, will the gap become a pit that swallows any hope of repair? Ashley travels a similar orbit, but harsher. The deceit in her story isn't merely someone else's medical secret. It's a staged miracle timed like a second proposal planted in the middle of a wedding. Derek may have believed surprise would beautify love, that standing up at the perfect moment would erase the symbol of helplessness and return hope. But while he dreamed of applause, Ashley lived the days of a caregiver's fatigue, gathering scraps of patience to keep believing. Every day beside the wheelchair was an unspoken vow against the world's suspicion that she stayed out of pity. When Derek's recovery was hidden long enough to turn into a performance, their love story became an installation piece in which Ashley was the audience member given the reveal at the end. People may excuse Shanice as trapped between professional ethics and friendship, or say Jacob merely honored Derek's request. But to Ashley, every excuse sounds like shuffling footsteps down a corridor after a canceled wedding. Breaking the engagement isn't fueled by fury, but by a sense of being stripped of agency. If the most important day is staged by someone else, is the rest of her life still hers? Meanwhile, Anita wears the face of someone keeping a ship afloat with water in the hold. The winter festival should have steered the family story toward purity, speaking about mental health as the admission that power cannot heal every wound, but that very kindness becomes a mirror for those clinging to borrowed titles for benefit. As Leslie edges toward the auction stage and glossy items are called by name, No one is sure which gesture is heartfelt and which strategic. Anita's overwhelm doesn't come from poor logistics. It comes from a matriarch forced to coordinate a public event while hearing, in her own home, the tremors of a roof about to cave. In a single night, can one person watch her daughter torn between sister and rival, confront the possibility that her husband hid ties to a name from the past, and still keep the family honor from sinking like rotting floorboards? As all the axes shudder, Sharon steps out of articulate like a hazy catalyst. A meeting may be harmless, or the missing tile in a mosaic of reputation managed by familiar lunches and pre-written features. Who is bargaining with whom in a city where microphones rarely switch off? If Sharon produces the truth, that Leslie did not inherit the memories she claims, that Barbara was used as a key to a display case rather than a source of light, the detonation will occur at the precise moment Anita needs calm most. And if so, can Vernon keep his usual poise when faced with the questions no one wants to ask? After a lifetime of safe decisions, can a man withstand admitting that he left a hole in his youth, now glaring in camera flashes? This week, predictions don't stand outside the story. They push it, logically, toward darker ends. Kat may do more than step back from Ted. She may choose radical self-defense, cutting rituals, refusing gatherings, turning every invitation into evidence that she is being coerced into a reality she did not choose. The immediate result forces Ted into a selection, with no right answer because every decision makes a child feel abandoned. Who can save anything when both sides have righteous pain? Naomi, meanwhile, may not simply pause her marriage in symbolic terms. She may move back to her mother's in a rainy night to avoid anger she can't control. Physical distance will become spiritual distance as the couple staggers their schedules to avoid crossing paths. When a pair shifts from late-night conversations about the future to sticky notes on the fridge about who's picking up the dry cleaning, the road back usually disappears. Jacob, ground between guilt and the need to fix, may bury himself in work and accept every therapy slot as self-punishment. But what good is it if the one who needs to hear him has pulled the plug on? Dialogue? If Leslie's identity is unmasked mid-event, two bleak roads open. One is to stay and defend herself with flimsy papers and scattered anecdotes, watching donors' eyes cool and handshakes. Turn polite but distant. The other is to leave before the curtain falls, accepting tomorrow's headlines as indelible ink. Both paths end in the same place. The isolation of someone who once believed she belonged. In that isolation, a black hole begins to swallow everything she used to build herself. If this is the price of touching a memorial fund, who holds the vault keys and why didn't they tell anyone where they were kept? After a scrambled night, Ashley might slide the ring into an unmarked envelope with no note, forcing Derek to face the emptiness on her finger rather than argue the virtues of surprise. A ring leaving a hand makes no sound, but its echo runs the length of a family tree. Some will say she overreacted, that love needs surprises. Some will ask why she didn't give Derek a chance to explain. But a caregiver knows that delayed truth can be crueler than a lie. When a beautiful plan becomes proof that someone underestimated your endurance, how can a heart stay rational enough to sign a wedding contract? And Anita, will her anger yield anything other than a chain of decisions so rigid that she herself can't breathe? A cornered patriarch often tightens, disciplined to keep things from collapsing. But tightening can break. If she publicly distances herself from Leslie to save the fund's honor, she'll face whispers that this family always chooses money over people. If she protects Leslie to honor compassion, she'll face a speaking balance sheet and doubtful eyes. Every choice is a fresh cut while the old ones are still open. And late at night, after the lights go down, will she admit that the crusade to save the family's name is turning her into someone she no longer recognizes? These questions don't wait for next week. They've already slipped under door frames, clung to the lip of wineglasses, and settled on the marble floors of the great hall. Who still has the courage to say everything will be fine when no one is ready to say what they truly want? Who will set down the microphone, step off the charity stage, and find the child clinging to the fear of replacement to lead her home? And if no one does, will tonight be the night the mansion learns to go silent before it falls? Then, in this taut air, a tiny detail will trigger the final chain reaction. An invitation misprints a single letter of Barbara's name. A fund ledger notes a vague line about a private lunch. An old photograph arrives anonymously, taken on the bridge where Vernon once met Sharon, only not this time, long ago. Trifles, normally harmless, become evidence when they drop into a crowd already exhausted. Evidence not only against the suspected, but against the illusion that love can stand if it's built from strands of avoidance. If history repeats, will this iteration be the darkest? As each character is driven into a corner where the only reflections left are of their worst selves? Thus, this week doesn't open a new door so much as slam the old ones shut. Kat meets the fear of replacement with self-exile. Naomi meets the fear of losing freedom with a cold distance. Jacob meets the fear of being forgotten by hugging guilt until it chokes him. Ashley meets the fear of being belittled with an envelope holding a ring. Leslie meets the fear of namelessness with a claim for repayment. Anita meets the fear of losing control with fury. Vernon meets the fear of exposure with an old photo. And Derek, at the center of a collapsed grand design, meets the fear of losing the woman he loves with a silence no explanation can fill. Among all these reckonings, what question is more terrifying than this? Perhaps the worst thing isn't having secrets exposed, but realizing you have lived so long with them that you no longer know what love looks like without them. And if you have grown used to the dark, can the light still be gentle enough not to burn your eyes?